Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris and Ben for Outer Rim Transmission. This is episode 211. 211. We are talking all about the news coming out of New York Comic Con. New York Comic Con 2025 was the past weekend, which is why we took a break. There was a lot of stuff that came out of there. Plus, we have an unfortunate person that's close to Star Wars that passed away, so we'll talk about the career of the famous artist Drew Struzan, so we'll talk a little bit about him, all on this week's show of the podcast. But how's it going, Ben?
Good. Just having a good weekend, just chilling, watching football today. The Browns won, so that was a great thing. Yeah, it was a good blowout win. And it really was a blowout of a day because all in Northern Ohio, like here over in Cleveland, winds have been gusting like 30 to 45 miles an hour all day long consistently. It's just like a major windstorm over this way. So that's how it was like I seen at the game. And then like over here, I mean, I had to shut all the windows in the whole house because everything was just blowing around because the wind was blowing so strong. So yeah, it's been a good day. And then just ready to talk some Star Wars with you and anyone else who's here or listens after the fact. It's always a good way to end the weekend.
Oh yeah. So, as I mentioned, the last 2 weeks, I'll talk about New York Comic Con off the bat, but I'll throw it to you first. Do you have any Star Wars occurrences or anything that happened over the last 2 weeks?
I would say for me, I think one thing that needs, for me, for my week in Star Wars, really, one thing that needs, I think, to be brought up since we're podcasters and, you post content and we talk about Star Wars online. It's an important thing to be brought up is like, when it comes to Star Wars, like we all may have like our different opinions and, we may like certain things and just, or not like certain things. And, that's totally fine. And, there was a lot of discussion over the past week because there was like a major outcry because people were upset. And like, you can speak to this more than I can because you read a lot more of the newer Disney era books. I'm more selective on them. But basically, there was a huge outcry earlier in the week about there's an upcoming Star Wars romance novel. And my thing about that is
already
like,
had them though. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing. They already had them, but like, I guess since like, I don't know, they're really, whatever, however they're wording it or advertising it or whatever, it just seems to have hit the internet harder this week than it had, before. Because like for me, I've read Lost Stars. I thought that was a good book and it was kind of more romancy or whatever. Yep. And then even in Legends, there was like stuff like Courtship of Leia, which is a great book. Yeah, that's an excellent book. So I've seen a lot of discussion about this. And regardless of the book, there was a whole uprising of like anti-girl in Star Wars discussions going on around the internet.
Jeez.
And I just have to bring this up since we create content and podcasting. And like for us, especially like, we're three guys on here talking Star Wars, but whether it's guys or girls or whatever, whoever's here, we're definitely welcoming of it. Of whoever wants to talk about Star Wars or be a part of the fan base, just because like, I guess I'm bringing this up too, just because I'm friends with Star Wars Meg. And like, she was getting like majorly called out by certain people in Star Wars content creation, basically saying, hey, like, you're a girl, you just need to kind of like sit back and take a break from Star Wars and let the boys, enjoy Star Wars the next 2 or 3 years so Star Wars can get back on track. And for me,
what?
Yeah, that was a whole thing. And I'll go into more of that off air. But anyways, so like, I want to like give her a shout out and other ladies that are in Star Wars as fans or creators or whatever, and just say like, guys, at the end of the day, this is just a Star Wars universe, and like it's just being fans of something. So, for anybody who listens to our podcast that's a female, we always want to make sure everybody feels included, and we're a podcast that supports men, women, or whatever you identify as or whatever. Like, we're cool. So, I just wanted to throw that out there as kind of our opener to the podcast because there was a lot of chatter to say the least this week about that entire thing, and it kind of boiled up to the whole we shouldn't have it. Literally, there was a whole thing we shouldn't have girls in Star Wars the next couple of years, and I'm just like, this has got to be brought up because I feel like it's an important thing to be brought up.
Yeah, so going back to the original trilogy, so you're saying basically erase Leia from everything because that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
People are saying like
erase Leia,
essential character,
Natalie Portman or whoever.
Yeah, all these characters. You don't want Dedra Miro. What a fantastic character in Andor. You don't want
Mara Jade.
Ahsoka. You don't want Ahsoka. You don't. The women are as important to Star Wars as the male characters. So
yeah,
I don't know where these people are getting their delusions, but basically, if you come across these people, don't even acknowledge them. Don't give them the oxygen. Don't try to fight. Just ignore them because they want the clout online. That's what it is. They just want the clicks because unfortunately negativity is what gets people the views on their tweets and whatever it is. So it's like, don't give it to them.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
No, that's why I was just like, I gotta bring it up because I feel like it's an important thing to be brought up. Like, when you see it going on throughout the fan base this week, and I'm just like, oh, really? Like, we're getting to that because, like I said with Meg, for example, like there were people like openly talking to her, like saying, "Hey, yeah, you should just like shut it for a couple of years," and she's just like, "Really?" So it's just like to me, I don't know, like. I don't know. To me, I guess I've always had the view of it. It's like it's more fun to have more people in the Star Wars fandom than not because, I still remember the days when we thought we weren't getting any more Star Wars movies or anything, and it was just Legends, period. That's it, nothing else. And now, like, there's this huge network of people that we know, whether it be like Star Wars Meg or Hannah or whoever. Like, there's plenty of people. So it's like, hey, we got to give all the ladies a shout out. So.
Yeah. So keep doing what you're doing out there, ladies. Ignore the haters. You know what it is? It's like, if it's too slow of a time at Star Wars, somebody's trying to make drama. There always has to be some kind of negativity loop where it's like, oh, nothing's happening. Look at this little thing. Let's make a big deal out of this, just because there's nothing else we can talk about or something. I don't know.
Well, the funny thing about it is, like, even we all know, like, Star Wars theory can be critical sometimes of Star Wars, as we all can. And even he commented on this whole thing and was like, wait, really? Like people are making a thing of this? And he's like, honestly, if this whole thing wasn't brought up to me, I wouldn't even have thought twice of it. And like he said, who cares? It's a romance book. It's a book. It's whatever. Like, if you don't like it, don't read it. I mean, it's just like anything else. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it, whatever. Like, even Theory commented and was like, it's no big deal. But people like to overblow things and turn it into something. And like you mentioned, it's way easier to farm engagement when you go like the super negative route.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. It's worth, I guess, maybe it isn't even worth making people aware of this because it just seems so trivial.
Yeah, that's true.
By next week, it's going to blow over and something else will happen. But it's the flavor of the week negativity from the toxic side of the fandom. What are you going to expect? The same old people. So getting into something hopefully a little bit more positive. I got some cool stuff to show off. One of these things came in like 2 days before I went away to Comic-Con, so I'm just going to show it off anyway because this is one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time. I'm very stringent and very selective, I should say, when it comes to getting new Star Wars action figures because A, I don't have the room, and B, they're getting very expensive. So without further ado, here is my 6-inch The Black Series. Da-da-da-da!
Oh, nice.
Dash Rendar from Shadows of the Empire.
Oh, dang.
I ordered this guy like 3 or 4 months ago, I feel like. So when I got the package, I completely forgot, like, oh, yeah, I ordered this thing.
I was assuming you got it whenever you mentioned it months ago.
Yeah, no. So now I have the full slate. I have Zizor. I got a twin pack. Did I ever show you guys the twin pack of Luke and Leia? I don't think I did.
I don't remember that at all.
1 second. It's like literally right behind me on the bookshelf, but it's so low you can't see it.
Yeah, while you grab that. But yes, yeah, with the Shadows of the Empire, it's awesome they're releasing figures like that. I mean, just because like that's such an iconic game and point in the Star Wars fandom, especially for like anybody who's in like their 30 plus range. Um, I think it's a great it's great that they're just bringing light to these sorts of figures and things that people enjoy because that's the thing. It's like, do you want your 10 millionth Darth Vader or not, or characters you really enjoy? So I think I think it's awesome that they dropped these, especially because we all know Black Series is a great it's a great quality of product too in terms of like their what's the word, like realism, I guess.
Oh yeah, oh
Um,
yeah. I gotta do one more thing real quick. I'm gonna try to do something cool here. Give me one moment.
yeah, you're good.
I should have been more prepared to do this ahead of time, but
I mean,
what
hey,
are you gonna do?
the next thing they could drop potentially while
All
you're
right.
getting that around is
Yep.
maybe an Outrider.
Oh, talk about a good HasLab, right?
Oh yeah. Oh my
So,
gosh. Now that okay, forget the clone gunship with one figure, whatever junk that was we talked about a month ago. They should drop an Outrider with like the has or for the HasLab stuff with I don't know, with the cool Shadows of the Empire stuff. Like give us a Wampa or give us things that were related to that game.
all right. So I found something interesting about this because when you with the newer Black Series, they have the if you put them together on the side, they create like usually a seamless kind of image. If you have them like displayed on their side for some reason on the shelf, they have like a seamless image. But in this case, it looks like there's a gap between Dash and Luke and Leia. Unless it's supposed to be that way because there's two characters in one box. But the one thing I am disappointed by is with the original line, you had a bounty hunter Chewbacca disguise. And it was the Chewbacca that had like the flat top cut.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
So
Yep.
I'm waiting for that to get released. I know it's not been announced, but I mean, it's unfortunate because I would have loved to have that figure to complete the set. Because I never owned that one either as a Kenner. I never owned it. I would have loved to own it as the 6-inch, but I guess it's a lot of work to like completely make a brand new Chewbacca for them. Because
Yeah, no, those
the
go
Luke
on.
though, I mean, I like the Luke because he is that red armor, and we never see
Yep.
that red armor. That's like the special force like Coruscant Guard or something like that. Yeah, it's Imperial Guard armor. So it's interesting. It's like the Royal Guards, but not really. It's like I guess they're like the inner circle of like Palpatine's
Right.
infantry or something that are like guarding the temple itself or something.
Interesting. I mean, I don't know. It's been a long time. It's probably been 15 years since I played that game. Is there a point in the game where you see him in that at all?
That's a good point. I don't know if
Because
there is.
I don't remember. It might be just something like a concept they had for it or something.
Yeah, it might be in the book. Like, I think it is explained, like, him and because Lando is involved too, and Lando gets hit. Because I listened to the audio book not too long ago, in the last year, actually, because it came out recently with the Essential Legends, and they redid. They have a complete version of audio now. And at one point, they go to Coruscant, and Lando and Luke knock these guards out and take their armor, so that's got to be it.
Oh yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
really
okay.
cool.
Yeah, so I got those, and that's not all because now I could show you the thing that I actually got from the convention. It's another Hallmark ornament, and it's for none
Those are always
other
great.
the Darth Nihilus from Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords. So cool. It's
Dang,
a,
I've never seen that, and I would have never predicted they would have made a Darth Nihilus.
how deep cut is that? Because a couple years ago they had a Darth Revan, so now I'm gonna have a Darth Revan and that. Now all I need is Darth Sion and Darth Treya. So I'm holding out hope on the next
You know
couple
what?
years they'll do that.
You know what you need to do? You need to start. You need to get one of those little, like 3 foot trees for your like your room or something, and put since it's Christmas, whatever. Put red lights on it, and then start making like a Sith slash bounty hunter slash bad guy
Oh,
tree.
I mean, I'm
One
actually in the need
superheads.
for a new tree because I have so many ornaments that there's really not much room left on the
That's
tree
how
to
I
have
am
any
too.
more anymore. Oh man, so yeah, I mean, just talking quickly about Comic Con. I was on the Tractor Beam podcast earlier this week with my pal Matthew over talking about comics, and I spent like 45 minutes on that podcast talking about the convention. So I'll do my best to keep it short here. Um, we got Small Bento Sakura. Thanks for jumping in the chat as always. Right off the top of the show here, we go live. Subscribe to the channel youtube.com/Starrapter if you're listening, and if you're listening, we go live. So go ahead and check it out, and you could listen to us. Just search out a room transmission. But yeah, overall, good convention. There was a kind of for me there wasn't as much content creation going on because for once I was really taking it in as more of like just a con goer than anything else. But I was able to see stuff like George R. R. Martin from Game of Thrones talking about the new spin-off Knights of the Seven Kingdom. I was able to see the Marvel stuff. I was able, they had a whole bunch of shows, and I'll talk about that in a little bit because it ties into my Star Wars stuff we'll talk about. Seen a lot of cool things. Another interesting thing that ties into my week of Star Wars is the fact that I got to experience other fandoms as an outsider, which is what's really cool about New York Comic Con. Because you go to Star Wars Celebration and it's all just Star Wars, but when you go to New York Comic Con, it's like every fandom from anime to fantasy to books to everything under the sun. So I was
There's
in the
people who
room.
don't care about Star Wars, so like it's cool. For something like that, it's cool getting to like see those other people.
Yeah, I was in a room that might have actually outdone the noise level of a Star Wars panel
Dang.
because I was in a panel because my girlfriend likes watching a series that I started watching. It's pretty good. It's called Interview with the Vampire. It's predominantly about two men that are vampires that are in a romantic relationship, and it's a complicated thing. So as you can imagine, they're two attractive men, so it's going to attract a lot of females to this panel. So as these two actors came on stage, it almost blew up my eardrums because they just wouldn't stop yelling. It was like the Beatlemania thing again. It was like Pedro Pascal comes on the stage, walks on stage. It's like there you go. They go nuts. Same thing happened here. So it's fun because I was just sitting there like, oh wow, this is what it's like when like a non-Star Wars fan is probably in a Star Wars room and like they announce like, oh, here's this here's this famous actor. Everybody goes nuts, and you're like looking around the room just like soaking in all this positivity. You know what I mean? So that was cool. I was in another panel with like a bunch of stuff from Blumhouse, and they're making Five Nights at Freddy's 2. And at one point they announced this cast member. And people stood up out of their chairs, and I was like, what are these people doing? So then I stood up because that doesn't happen often ever. Like at these panels, like no one ever stands up to give like clapping ovations or anything. So I'm sitting there going, what is happening here at this point? And I guess it must have been one of like the voice actors is actually going to be in the actual live action movie or voice one of the. I don't know anything about the series. In fact, I'm probably going to maybe even watch the first one tonight. But yeah, so the theme of last weekend was like, I got to experience a lot of stuff from like an outsider's perspective in a fandom, so that was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. It's always great getting to like step outside, step outside of our like Star Wars bubble that is, that is Star Wars because, if you're really in Star Wars, like gosh, you can be consuming Star Wars content every single day, all day if you choose. Like, so you can always be in that bubble of Star Wars, but it's always good to like get out and like interact and look into other fandoms, whether it be like Marvel or DC or anime things, or find creators and other fandoms you like or whatever. Just because it's good to just kind of have like a diverse palette of I guess content, I would say.
Yeah, but Friday, Saturday, I was in cosplay. I was the Flash on Friday. I was
Nice.
Daredevil on Saturday. If you see social media on Twitter or Facebook, if you're friends with me on Facebook, you'll see those pictures there. I did do some short video content, like YouTube Shorts. So I have like some tours walking around. I had high aspirations do more of those for reviews of panels, but I kind of just fell out of it because it was a lot going on, as you could imagine. I always go into these things going, oh, I'm gonna do this, do this, do this, and then half the stuff doesn't happen. So I'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, that was basically my extended week in Star Wars / other things. So there you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like you had a good time.
Yeah, very much. And this week, getting into some stuff that came out this week specifically, we had Legacy of Vader issue number 9. This is going to be a big one for a lot of folks. This is going to be a big one because, and I'm going to just say it here because there's a lot of people that probably don't even read the comics anymore, so it's fine if I talk about it. There is a character that is basically almost like Mara Jade that's running around the Star Wars universe uncontested at this point, around the time of the end of Rise of Skywalker, basically. Her name is Teva Ren. Have you heard of her?
I have not.
She straight up is the Knight of Ren captain, leader of the Knights of Ren, when Kylo Ren, like, basically leaves to join the First Order, right? And then, so she's taken place as the head of that organization while Kylo Ren's there with General Hux and Snoke and all that stuff. So she basically, now that this comic is set between Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, she ends up finding Kylo. She learns about Kylo, finds him on a First Order ship, and has a conversation with him. And at one point they duel. And Kylo does get the one-up edge on her, but then she's able to kind of get into it, pick his brain about certain things. And it gets to the point where he sort of like lets his guard down. And I guess it's because he wants it as well. And they just start openly making out. Like, and then he pulls away, and then he gets like a second thought, and he's like trying to, he orders all his men on the ship to go after her, and she flees, and he lets her go. Because Hux is like, she's getting away, and and Kylo's watching her. So, and he just lets her slip through his fingers, like, purposely. And she goes to hyperspace. And she's a strong warrior, because at one point, she literally uses the Force to, like, throw down a ship from a hangar to, like, take out this legion of First Order troopers, and then gets in the ship and gets out of there. So it's not like she's, like, an Inquisitor level. Like, she seems like she's stronger than an Inquisitor, right? Mm-hmm. So now we have this character running amok across the Star Wars galaxy unchallenged. I mean, yes, there's still 3 more issues that are going to be coming out for the series, so maybe she'll pop up again. But I would think that she's probably going to survive, even if she shows up again. I think they're... So my thing is, I hope that they get this character, maybe in live action, maybe some other project, because, hey, you can have another Darksider Force user around here. And she used to be an assassin, too, which is why it gives me like a Mara Jade vibe, because she used to work for this certain mercenary, and actually was using like a sniper rifle and everything. But she does have a red blade. Like, she constructed her own. I don't know if she constructed her own, but she has a red lightsaber. So I don't know if you heard about this character, but I feel like not enough people are talking about it, because it seems like it's a pretty big footprint that the writer Charles Soule is now introduced to the Star Wars galaxy in the sequel trilogy.
Well, I mean, you know what they could do if she survives another 6 years or 7 years? I mean, she could potentially bump into Rey and, whatever Rey's movie is, and then they have this built-in backstory of like, oh, hey, check out our character. Here's our however many issues of comics, and if she comes out in books and things and all that. Like, that's how, to me, that's how you build up to characters like these movies and shows and things, is like, lay the foundation for their backstory. Like, it's not like spoiling anything for the movie. All it does is enrich the live action version of the character. So I feel like that could be a potentially good character to, throw in there versus like, I don't know, another Palpatine clone or something.
Yeah, exactly. So, and she's got a really cool, like, her charisma, the way she behaves, the way her dialogue is written. She's a very interesting character. She's definitely not one note. And she's even got the red hair, which is like, what the heck? Now, her skin is darker, though. She does have, like, a darker skin tone, but it's like, it's kind of on the nose. She's got red hair, a lightsaber. She's sort of like a romantic love interest in a way. It's like, this is pretty much a proxy for Mara Jade, but in a slightly later point of the timeline kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I feel like with Star Wars, we had pretty much every main Legends person introduced other than the Vong and her. And I feel like they're gonna just keep getting closer and closer to the edge of it. I don't know. I just feel like that's how they're gonna keep doing things, is like just getting close to the edge of her officially being in it, but not, and like, you're gonna keep getting these like proxies for her, or and so on and so on.
Yeah. So the other big release, and now I picked this one up early at New York Comic Con. Comic Con started Thursday. This book officially came out the following Tuesday, so I was able to get a jump in and start reading it before it officially came out. I talked to you guys about this one. I have a review on the channel already if you're interested in checking it out. But this is the deluxe edition of Revenge of the Sith, the novelization written by Matthew Stover. And I absolutely love this book from an aesthetic, but also from a writing perspective. I thought it was brilliant. Just as like one of the sickest presentations of a book ever. This is how it feels to be Anakin Skywalker forever. I'm sorry, the lighting is not cooperating very well, but you might be able to see right there, like that, the glossy pages. Like it's got the insert of how tragic this is, with like, oh, happy moment here of Anakin and Padme loving each other, and then you go all the way to the back, and this is what happens when you think only about yourself and just fall to the dark side, with Darth Vader transformation in the back cover. Beautiful artwork. Oh my goodness, this thing is a work of art. It literally is a work of art. And, it is a little pricier. It's about double the price of a normal hardcover, and it comes in at $60 US. And here you go, without the banner, this is what the bottom looks like here. But the cool thing about the cover is, like, there's like the slip cover on there, like that, and then you take this off, and again, if I had the larger, wider frame, I should just turn on the wide frame for this shot here, but it's pretty cool. Oh, I didn't even notice this. I didn't even notice this part of the book. That little like silhouette of Anakin, and that's so cool.
Oh yeah, I see that. Nice.
And what's really going to get people interested, if you've even read this already, this might actually pique your interest as well. It's fully annotated, meaning that there's commentary throughout the book in these like little footnotes on the bottom that they coincide with the text. So as you're reading through this book, it's basically like you're watching a commentary on a movie. The director is telling you what's going on in his thought process, and Matthew Stover in this instance is telling you about his writing process of this book that came out 20 years ago, because this is celebrating the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith. I've never read the book before. At that point,
it's excellent.
Yeah, at that point in my life, I always say I was out of Star Wars. I was kind of like, I think I outgrew the franchise. Like, yeah, Revenge of the Sith is out. I'll go watch it once and forget about it, kind of thing. That's how I was at that angsty teenage year. I was 15 at that point, 16, somewhere around there. So I was like, yeah, whatever. So I never even had a second thought of picking up a Star Wars novelization for the movie, but I've always heard how good it was. And yeah, it's amazing because I love how in the beginning there's several pages of Matthew Stover just talking about just the concept of the book, and how he had to write the book a year and a half before the movie came out. So all he was dealing with were scripts at that point. And he would get updates on scripts. He would get updates on maybe some filming and stuff to like edit later on. But, he had to obviously speak with George Lucas in person a number of times. And he had a great, he does a great job with the commentary, with the annotations, and being, just very honest with the process. Like, I feel like a lot of times with like Star Wars behind the scenes, it's like very sterile and very like pristine. Very, like everything's so, other, everything is just so perfect. Like, no, he says some stuff in here that you're like, oh wow, like okay. So I really appreciated that amount of honesty in this, and the idea that this guy had some cojones, because he approached George Lucas and he's like, I'm gonna make this a Greek tragedy, He's like, I have this whole idea. It might be crazy, but I'm gonna pitch this as this other thing. And George Lucas was basically like, yeah, as long as it has the main story, just make it good. And that was like the big thing is just make it good. And that's like hit in the back of his head, Matthew's head, as he's writing this is like, this will be good. I gotta make it good. I'm gonna throw this line. It's gonna be an evocative line. It's gonna make people really go, "Oh man, that really hurts." You know. There's another thing in here that he throws in, which is all the EU references. That's never really been done before. So having Legends EU expanded universe in here, things like from Bane trilogy, things from The Labyrinth of Evil by James Luceno, all these other things that kind of go into this. His own book he wrote, Shatterpoint. What I like about the novelization too, I guess I'm pretty much doing a review. I have a review on the on the thing already. I don't know why I'm going into this detail. I guess it's because I'm so passionate about this thing. But what I really like, one last thing I'll say about it is the perspectives, getting like other characters, Mace Windu, getting stuff about seeing perspective of Count Dooku, thinking he would be in the Empire and having the Sith army and talking about that and all these really tantalizing things, and even getting like these second person sort of chapters where you're really getting that outside kind of perspective, which is really neat. But I know you read this one, so I know you said you're planning on picking it up probably at some point, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So have you finished that yet? Did you say?
Yeah, I finished it. All right,
Okay.
I finished it in such a short amount of time. I was glued to this thing.
What I was gonna say is, I think one of the best parts of that book is the whole giving more context to the duel between Palpatine and the Jedi Masters, because of how he describes how fast Palpatine moves.
Yeah.
Because he talks about Palpatine pretty much being like a blur. And I don't remember which one it is. One of the masters were so surprised at like how fast he moved. And the movie, when they were filming this movie in like 03 and 04, you can't, 22 years ago, you can't make Ian McDiarmid go super fast motion because it's just like unpractical. So like, getting that context from the book, because that was always like a contentious point when people always nitpick Revenge of the Sith. They're like, oh well, the fight between Palpatine and the Jedi Masters, like, how was he able to take out the Jedi so quickly or so easily? But when you put the context to it, Palpatine, like, they're viewing him, he's moving like a blur, that's like way different context than what you see on screen, because on screen it's this choreographed thing, and then in the book it's like boom boom boom, like so fast. And I think that's one of the best takeaways from that book, is just it adds so much more value to the duel of Palpatine versus the Jedi Masters, because when you watch Revenge of the Sith straight away, and if you're not a Star Wars fan, you'll be like, whoa, these were supposed to be the best masters in the galaxy, and they just like get taken out in 10 seconds. So I really appreciate him like actually adding context to that scene.
Oh, it's pretty brutal. In that scene, I'm pretty sure he beheads. Well, he definitely beheads somebody. I can't tell you who. I forget. Asian Kloss, or is it Kit Fisto?
Asian. I think it's Asian Kloss or whatever his name is. I think, yeah, because when he does that, that's when. Oh yeah, I think that's how it goes.
No.
Ethkoth, yeah, that's what his name is. Yeah, Ethkoth.
No.
Because
Sassy Tin.
Oh, is that who was? Okay, well, because I remember when he gets beheaded, one of the guys are like, whoa, like, they're shocked that Palpatine was able to do that quickly, and it's just like it adds so much more context to that scene than what you see on screen.
That's the thing. That's what I love about this novelization. It gave so much more context. The next time I watch that movie, which I plan on watching it as I paint my more miniatures I have, I'm going to put that in the background and probably end up just watching the movie instead of painting or whatever, because I'm looking for those details. Like, it's crazy how much detail they have. A third of the book, out of a 425 page book, a third of that is just from the Battle of Coruscant. From the moment they show up to the moment they land the ship on Coruscant, that's a large part of the book, right? It's so much detail that he was able to put in there. So it's awesome. Definitely recommend. Again, I have my video review. You can check that out.
I do have to say too, along with recommending this Revenge of the Sith novel. Like we mentioned in passing, I also highly recommend Labyrinth of Evil as well, because that book is another phenomenal book.
Oh yeah, don't worry. I was getting pestered all weekend long by my one friend Matt, who was saying, "Don't read that until you read Labyrinth of Evil. You're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
You're doing it
yeah,
wrong." And I'm like,
because
"Dude, I'm not
this is
reading that right
Labyrinth of
now."
Evil's part one. Yeah, Labyrinth of Evil part
Oh,
one, essentially.
yeah. And the cool thing is, at the Lucasfilm port, well, not even Lucasfilm booth. It's the Penguin Random Worlds booth. It used to be Del Rey at New York Comic Con. They had the big banner. The first half of that banner was the Revenge of the Sith novelization, and then that image of the book cover that I just showed melds into the image cover of the Master of Evil book written by Adam Christopher, which is the mask of Vader, and you can see part of it is like human, but it's like melded with flesh. And that book is coming out in November, so that's why I wanted to hurry up and finish this novelization, because Adam Christopher's book is pretty much almost picking it up, or almost not immediately, but like soon after the events of Revenge of the Sith. So it's a nice 1-2 punch for this fall. You can read the Revenge of the Sith novelization and then go right into the Master of Evil book and get the next continuation almost of like where Anakin goes next as Vader kind of thing.
Yeah, I think if I remember right when we were talking about that, I think it only takes place like 5 weeks after Revenge of the Sith or something.
Yeah, now
It's really short.
I have to confirm. Maybe I'll reach out to Adam or somebody at publishing, because he is interweaving that story with the Charles Soule Darth Vader 2017 run from Marvel, which that comic series is what I'll read next. Like right before Master of Evil comes out, I'll at least read the first 5 or 6 issues, which is what I heard. You read those 5 or 6 issues, which is the moment after he says no with like Padme being dead, and it shows him right there, and then going forward, you read 5 issues of that comic, and that'll take you into this new book coming out in November. So I think that's how you do it, but I'm going to confirm because I want to make sure I'm ready to go for that book, because Adam Christopher is great. If you aren't familiar, he did Shadow of the Sith, which I thought was awesome, that Luke and
Yeah, that's a really
Luke
good
and
book.
Lando book. Yeah.
Yep, I say that's a really good book. I actually have one of my Star Wars. Well, one of my friends in real life that he follows a lot of Star Wars stuff too, and he doesn't buy a lot of books nowadays. And he got that book. I mean, it was last winter, but he really liked that one as well. Like that's been one of their more really good books. I just think it's a really good story.
It does so much heavy lifting for the Rise of Skywalker and the sequel trilogy as a whole.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
I read that book and I have a much better grasp on exactly what is happening with Rey and her parents and Palpatine and all that sort of thing. And what's his face that got killed on Pisana?
I'll say
The
this. I'll say
assassin.
this. Ochi.
Ochi of Bassoon. Yeah.
I'll say this about that book. I think for me with Shadows of the Sith, I think that book to me, out of most of like, you know, I mean, I haven't read a ton of the Disney era of books. I can admit that. I've read probably, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 different books of them. Well, anyways, I would say like that's one book where it's like it feels more like how a Legends book would be made, where you have like Luke and Lando and you have these characters connecting to the movies and this and that and like all this like it just that book hit more for me than most of the Star Wars stories, because like that's kind of like how it was back in the day with like Legends, where it would like you get things connecting to the movies really well, or like so on, and answering different questions
Hmm.
and all that. So like that's another, I guess we're recommending books, but that's another really good one.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot more about books, guys, because we have a Hasbro panel we're going to talk about in a few minutes, and we have another publishing panel we're talking about in a few minutes. But that's what I've noticed too. That's what I've noticed too, man, because this year has been a great year for Star Wars books, because right off the top, obviously, we got the end of the High Republic, but if you're talking about the current, like, the original trilogy and era and everything, I think what works best is when there's books made around movies, but the movies have been out for a couple years or something.
Yep.
Because I mean, there's two examples this year. Mask of Fear by Alexander Freed. It takes place before Andor. Andor season was out for a couple of years. So, Alexander Freed was able to really write a great book because he knew the backstory. He knew all this stuff already ahead of time. And then you had the Bad Batch Sanctuary. Season two, it takes place right in between season 2 and season 3. Season 2 had already been done for a while. So Lamar Giles was able to just watch that season and watch season 3 and really know the whole breadth of the characters, and then able to write a really great story. And that's kind of what we got with Shadows of the Sith. Like, the sequel trilogy was done for a while, so Adam Christopher was like, I actually get to fill in the blanks now. So I think it's a lot of times we get these books that come out before a movie. Like, the biggest example of this is it's a good book in its own right, but it doesn't really match up that well to Rise of Skywalker, and that's the Resistance Reborn book by Rebecca Roanhorse. Like, there's a lot of stuff with Wedge and with Tem and Wexley and all this stuff in that book that doesn't really even pay off in the movie, and it seems like it's almost disjointed because scripts probably changed and different things happened. And it's like, I get you want to bank off the hype of the movie, and it's such a cool idea to have a book coming out before a movie that'll like kind of give you a preamble into the movie. And the only book that's ever done that well was Catalyst by James Luceno.
Yep.
And
love that book.
From what I heard, and don't take this with like any authority, like James Luceno had to go through a lot to write that book because Lucasfilm kept going back and forth with him. And so it was rough because when the thing is not done yet, and you have to have so many checks and balances like that because it's still being developed, the movie at the same time as the book, things might get a little bit stressful and a little bit crazy. So as much as it's nice to have stuff like that, I think in the long run, you have us talking about books that done well. They make a more lasting impact. If you just maybe take a year or two after those things that you're pairing it around and just make sure it's good.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's I think the best way to do it is just like expand out from there. I mean, look, like we just mentioned with this Revenge of the Sith book, and obviously a lot of these books like Shadows of the Sith or Mask of Fear, etc. Like those sorts of things. It just plays off everything really well. Just because it adds more value to the overall like movie, but also to the book. It just adds value to both. Like, heck, back in the day, one of the best things that I read, when I was in elementary school, and there was a book series that took place before Phantom Menace. It was like 10 or 12 books, and it was like an Obi-Wan series, Padawan type series. It was like a young reader's book, but basically what it was Obi-Wan from the time he was a youngling to where, like, Qui-Gon was deciding who he'd want as a Padawan and all that.
Wow.
Like, Obi-Wan didn't become his Padawan in Legends until, in that book series, mind you, he didn't become his Padawan until like probably book 7 or 8 out of like 10. Like, yeah, he didn't become his Padawan for a long time because like Qui-Gon had a different Padawan, and then like, Obi-Wan basically like, it's just like this whole thing. And and like that book series, though, it's like all of these sorts of books we're talking about. It just added more value to Phantom Menace because, like, I think if I remember right, it ends literally like right before they head on to the mission that starts the movie.
Oh man. Yeah. So, speaking of books, why don't we talk about brand new books that were announced at New York Comic Con? So I'm gonna give you a bit of a backstory to this whole thing, right? So this panel was on Saturday. I had every intention of making it to that panel, which would be at 11:30 a.m. And I was already having a bit of an issue because, oh no, that was for the Hasbro panel. Never mind. That was on another day. We'll get to that one. But anyways, I did not make the panel. I showed up way later than I wanted to because you can blame it on the Daredevil costume and us partying the night before, not being responsible enough to myself to set the darn alarm, forgetting about it. So waking up and going, oh crap, I got to get to the convention in like an hour and a half, and it takes me an hour to get there, and I got to put all this stuff on still. And then the train ended up taking every single stop along the way, which made it that much slower. So by the time I got to the convention center, it was already halfway through the panel. So I had a decision to make. I said, either I can go to the Star Wars panel, or I can get in line now at 12:15 by the time I got where I need to go to hopefully get into the 1:30 Marvel TV and animation panel. So that's what I did. And so anyway, that's basically what happened. I ended up getting into the Marvel panel, and I was happy because that was the first time that they had, like, at San Diego Comic-Con, it's famous for that big marquee Marvel panel where they have like all this. Yeah, it's Hall 8. It's exactly, exactly. People line up for hours. I got in and the line got cut off right behind me. So even if I went into the Star Wars panel, which would have gotten over in time to get in line, that standby line would have never gotten me in because it would have been too late. So basically that panel showed off. I was happy because it was like a whole full slate of stuff. They showed off 2 animated shows. They showed off X-Men 97, and they announced it's going to have a season 3, and season 2 isn't even out yet. They showed a trailer for that. They showed My Friendly Spider-Man, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and confirmed that Charlie Cox, the actor of Daredevil, is going to be in that series as Daredevil, doing the voice for him. Nice. So I was super, super pumped for that. Then they went on and talked about Daredevil. As I was in my Daredevil costume watching this, going, oh my gosh, there's Charlie Cox, Daredevil himself, walking out on stage. And not only that, they showed off the trailer that had Jessica Jones. And then next thing you know, the actress walks out. And I'm like, yo, this is so hype right now. This is great. And then after that, they showed Wonder Man or Wonder. Yeah, I think it's Wonder Man.
Something like that. Yeah,
something like that. Brand new, character in Marvel for the MCU, obviously. But apparently Sir Ben Kingsley is going to be in it. The guy that was in Legend of the Ten Rings and Iron Man 3 that played the Mandarin. Because he's like an actor in the MCU, like in the MCU lore. He's like an actor and stuff. So like this show is about like this guy becoming an actor in the MCU. And I guess he gets some kind of power or something, obviously. So that was cool. But then that wasn't all, because the last big thing, they showed off the next continuation of like the WandaVision saga, if you want to call it that, which is Vision Quest. And they brought out Paul Bettany himself. And he was talking for a few minutes about it, and they showed us a trailer that had like Ultron in it and stuff. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. So as much as I love the Lucasfilm publishing panels, they're not going to give me sneak peeks and big moments like that. So I as much as it paid me not to make it to the panel, I was okay, because I was like, I got fed pretty nice stuff here at the Marvel panel. So.
Yeah, no, that would be a blast. I mean, like, I don't know. For me, when it comes to a lot of those things, of course, you want to go to your Star Wars panels because we're Star Wars fans. But like, if we're given truth serum, we know we're not getting anything at those types of panels. Like, we're not getting trailers or especially sneak peeks. So I just think it's really cool that you were able to see some of that stuff. If that was me, for sure, I would have been really excited about like the Charlie Cox and Kristen Ritter stuff, just because. For me, like, those Netflix Marvel series were like essential viewing back in the day, when they were on, because they were just so good. Daredevil was really good. For me, my favorite of them was definitely Jessica Jones. Like, I really liked that show a lot. I thought Kristen Ritter does a great job in that, and I'm glad they brought her back versus like recasting for her or him. And it's going to be interesting to see where they go, like, moving forward with like the Netflix MCU, like that entire gang.
Oh yeah. I was super pumped for that. Oh yeah. And they did announce there's going to be a season 3. I think we kind of knew that, but at first it was only going to be 2 seasons. So I'm pretty happy that this is like the mainstay of the Disney Plus shows. Like, I know they've cut back on Star Wars and Marvel, but next year we're getting Wonder Man in January. We're getting Daredevil. They confirmed is coming out in March again. So that's a great turnaround, by the way. I love it because I'm so used to, Ben, of like the Game of Thrones, House of Dragon, Andors, and all those things taking like 3 years between 3 years between seasons. So we're getting Daredevil literally a year after. It's because they're shooting it continuously, right? Like, they're in New York City right now, basically shooting a thing. So they're just continuously editing it as they go along, which is the way to go. I mean, that's how TV was always made. And then we got into this weird streaming point where everything's taking like triple the time to make. I mean, it does look better than the other stuff, but still, it's nice to be back to the usual way of doing things in a way. And then at the end of the year, we're getting Vision Quest. So three MCU series plus the 2 animated series. So I know the prices on Disney Plus went up recently, and it sucks 'cause I just got that notification when I went to it today. But hey, if you guys want to dip out now because there's not much coming out now, at least next year looks promising. At least Disney with the MCU stuff, and Star Wars will get the Maul series, which I'm still waiting for the official trailer, but we'll get there. Hopefully after they get done promoting Visions in a couple of weeks, they'll start talking about that more.
Oh yeah, I feel like it's I don't know, if I had to guess, it's probably coming out in January. I would assume January, February, just because they're going to want to get it out of the way before the Mando marketing starts. So, like it's got to be January.
Yeah. All right, so getting into the reveals. Here we go. So the biggest thing I think coming out of this big panel was for Star Wars Legacy, brand new story about Leia training Rey in between the events of The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. So that's really cool. Like they reference specifically rebuilding Rey's lightsaber, which is pretty cool. There's already been a good amount of content in this 1 year time period gap. Like we got Spark of Resistance by Justine Ireland, which is a middle grade novel. We got, as I mentioned before, Resistance Reborn, which leads us right into almost like the Rise of Skywalker, I think. We're getting the Legacy of Kylo Ren comic books. We're probably going to get up to 12 issues for that. Over the past week, they also had, during Comic-Con, they released a new audiobook by Kevin Scott called The Jaws of Jakku, which is Rey going back to Jakku in between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker to kind of like close the chapter on her and Jakku. Like she's basically, that story was basically like, all right, she's still having in her head thinking a lot about Jakku to the point where Leia thinks it could be a problem for her training. So she goes back there one last time basically to just kind of, say goodbye metaphorically, spiritually, to be like, okay, time to move on to my next chapter of my life. So what I'm getting at here is we do have a lot of content in this 1 year gap. So it's definitely not an unexplored amount of time, but it is good. I was talking to Matthew again on the Tractor Beam podcast earlier in the week, and something that I really was hyped about when I first watched Rise of Skywalker was the flashback of Luke training Leia on Agent Class, and it was that really awesome moment where they have their lightsabers. It's at night, they're training. Maybe this is that book. Maybe this is a vehicle for that book. I could see this book maybe like Leia is training Rey and saying, "Hey, there was this time when me and my brother were on this mission, and blah blah blah, and this is how I learned how to do this." And like we go back in time. And we're getting like maybe flashback chapters of like Luke training Leia. Like I really wanted to see more of that. And it's been such a long time since Rise of Skywalker. I'm shocked that we haven't seen more of it. I know with the Rise of Skywalker comic adaptation from Marvel and Jodie Hauser that came out in the last year, there are glimpses of that in some of like the pages of seeing like Leia training like that. So I'm really, really hoping that that's part of the story. But I'll throw it over to you. Like, what do you think about this story itself? Are you maybe interested in this? Do you think it's going to be decent? What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I'm interested in it actually because, you can probably answer for me why I'm interested, because it's main characters I care about. You're expanding the stories on them versus like, I don't get me wrong. It's great. There's plenty of stories where it's just like random people, whatever. But like for me, like, all those years of reading all those Legends books, the main reason I loved them was because it was like the big three from the OT or the big three from the prequels or whatever. And and I've been pounding the table for so long saying, hey, we need stories about Rey, Finn, Poe, etc., either around that time period or shortly after Rise of Skywalker. So this is cool that it's taking place between Last Jedi and Rise. And it's great, you have Leia as obviously like one of the main characters in this book, along with Rey. I mean, heck, one of my favorite other than Shadows of the Sith, one of my favorite um, one of my favorite Disney era Star Wars books was the one, whatever the Leia book is that takes place like 6 years before Force Awakens. I thought that was a
Bloodlines.
very, yeah, Bloodlines. I thought that was an excellent book because, I really liked it because it was Leia. You had all these ancillary characters that were like around her. And I think that's where like people like me where it's like, I'm not really sure about some of these books where it's these random people.
Yeah.
When you see Leia and Rey, it's like, oh, this is good, and it'll add more depth to Rey's character versus just being like in the three movies.
Yeah. So looking forward to this one. It comes out next summer. Next summer we get this one from Penguin Random Worlds. The publishers. It's a full-fledged adult novel. Switching gears over to young adult novels. This one is. Let me bring up my page here. Whoop, went to the wrong one. Okay. This next one here is the book on topic that we were talking about earlier with the romance.
Oh,
So this is called Eyes Like Stars. Oh my gosh, I did not give credit to the author. Okay, so Star Wars Legacy, we just talked about it, written by Madeleine Rue. And she is no stranger to Star Wars because she has done a short story in, I believe it's the first from a certain point of view. It's the one that broke my heart. Honestly, it's the last moments of Bail and Brea Organa
oh yeah.
as the Death Star destroys. I vividly
Yep.
remember that one like choking me up a little bit. Like that one was so tragic and sad, just their last moments of these proud parents and then they just get vaporized. So I have a lot of hope that this book is going to be really good. And plus, on the cover, I forgot to mention this, on the cover of Star Wars Legacy, you have Leia in her garb from Crate at the end of The Last Jedi. Then you have Rey with her garb from Rise of Skywalker. But beneath them, in a lot smaller of a size, is Kylo Ren. So the fact that it's called Star Wars Legacy, I know they're toting it as a Leia and Rey book, but I could also maybe see some Kylo Ren chapters, perhaps, or something like that. This is dealing with legacy. It's the legacy of Darth Vader. I mean, we're getting that book right now, the comic book version of. But I could see, or at least Leia, like doing flashbacks with her son. Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there'll definitely be things like that in there. I'm sure of whether we flashbacks with him or, maybe more of him like trying to do his like talking to Vader stuff that he did in the movies. That whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there probably will be something along those lines for that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. This is going back to Eyes Like Stars. This one is written by Ashley Poston. And this one is taking place about a year and a half before The Force Awakens. So we have another sequel trilogy book. Now, this one has two characters that are unknown to Star Wars. At least I think they are. They don't look familiar at all to me right now. But the cool thing, it's the cover. For those of you just listening and not watching, it has a guy and a girl. And, there's two TIE fighters flying in the background. But at the bottom, there's a border. This is a Star Wars romance novel. And I think people are getting worked up just because they see those words on a Star Wars book, honestly. Like, if those words weren't on the book, they probably wouldn't even care. But now that it's labeled as a romance novel, they're automatically saying, "Oh, Star Wars isn't meant for romance. It's whiz bang and Jedi and Rebel and Empire. What's going on?" So the backstory then behind this is I wasn't in the room, which is why I wish I was because I could get a better maybe explanation of this. But now that my grip on this is now that the High Republic is over, there's a new sort of initiative by Lucasfilm. To start doing like genre-based stories. So this is the first in a long line of that, right? So what's this? And they haven't announced any of these things I'm about to say, but what are other famous genres of books? What's they will do a spy thriller or a horror or a mystery, right? There's all I could see that happening down the line. So
Well, I think Tony Gilroy already implied there was something horror related in the works there because during the whole Andor marketing stuff, when he was doing his interviews, he got asked if he would do like something along those lines, like a scary thing or a horror type project, since this was like a thriller, like drama with Andor and whatnot. And like his answer was really weird. And it made it seem like there was something horror in the works, actually, because I was going to bring that up as soon as you brought up different genres. It made me remember that. So, like, to me personally, I don't mind any of these sorts of things in Star Wars, as again, at the end of the day, it's just as long as the story is good. Like, if the story is good, then we'll like it. If it's bad, we won't. I mean, regardless, like, like we mentioned earlier, there's plenty of like romance in Star Wars and things. Like, I mean, heck, some of the best moments in Legends, like last year, or no, 2 years ago, I went through a lot of the Zahn audiobooks.
Mm.
And some of the best moments of Luke and Mara weren't when they were in battle. It was like their more personal moments when they were like talking and like, their romantic connections and things, like, because that's, you're getting the characters connecting with each other. So it's just, at the end of the day, it just comes down to how the characters and stories written more than it being labeled a romance novel. Because if it
Yeah.
wasn't labeled romance, if that word was not on that cover, there would not have been any of that controversy or any of that junk going on. It's just because of the wording.
Yeah. In canon, we've had a couple books. We've had, as you mentioned, Lost Stars. We've also
That's a
had,
good book, by the way.
yeah, we've had a Crash Landing, which is a book that takes place on Batuu, where Galaxy's Edge is. And we've also had Princess and a Scoundrel. That's the book, the big book that Leia marries Han, right? So, and they go on their honeymoon and all that, and they go on the Galactic Star Cruiser. You guys remember that?
The hotel advertisement.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was still a decent book though, so I still enjoyed it. So those are the two big novels that got announced. Now remember, next year it's not just these novels. Now next year we have Star Wars tie-in book to Outlaws that's coming out in February, and then we also have, don't forget, we got the next book in the Reign of the Empire trilogy. We had mentioned Mask of Fear earlier in the episode. I don't know the name of the next novel off the top of my head, but we got that one coming from Rebecca Roanhorse that I mentioned, wrote Resistance Reborn. So we got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe, and maybe they'll give us a Mando and Grogu novelization as well. So I'm sure not everything is announced for next year, but it's already looking pretty promising. So just going down a list, the rest of this will be pretty quick. So going down the list, we have an art of the Mandalorian Grogu. Speaking of that movie, another one. This is cool. We got a Star Wars Visions branded manga coming called Tsukumo. And this one's written by Ichi Sumju with artwork by Tomohiro Shimaguchi. And Ben, this one looks awesome. It's basically a Jedi Knight wearing a clone commando helmet and armor with a lightsaber.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I feel like that type of imagery is great for manga.
the image is great, but I'm also wondering, why can't this be canon? Like, I feel like just based on the description I read, it almost feels like I'm looking at the all-star creators of the latest Ultraman manga. In the wake of Order 66, a lone Jedi Knight accompanies a pair of droids to a rumored droid's paradise while being pursued by the Empire. Like, that seems like they could have just made that in canon. Like, it's cool we're getting Star Wars Visions, but I mean, why is that Visions? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like, like stories like that are so isolated, you can make, you know what I mean? You can slap the canon label on it because, like, it's not going to change anything.
Yeah. This one got me really excited in terms of, like, this is the big comic reveal for me. Even though I mentioned the High Republic was over this year, it's not over next year because we're getting more of it, guys. No, this is not the full-blown initiative. We're getting a 6-issue miniseries that takes place 20 years after Phase 2. So if you're, it could be a little confusing. Phase 2 is actually like the prequels to the original trilogy. Phase 2 takes place before Phase 1. So this takes place several decades before we see, like Stellan Geos and Avar Kriss and all that. And this one's called Pathfinders. So we're going to get more of these Jedi and these Republic soldiers, medics and stuff going around the galaxy trying to find new planets and stuff. So it's cool. We knew that there was going to be more High Republic stuff in the future. So it's our first kind of peek at, okay, what do they do when the initiative at its core is over? Remember, the High Republic is a time period that spans like, I think, at least 250 years or something, and the main brunt of the story is only like a 3-year period. So there's so many other places to play around in that era that we haven't even touched yet. So it's cool to see that that's going to continue. That's come to us from Dark Horse.
I mean, Dark Horse is one of the best, so that's good to hear.
And then from here we got updates. Boba Fett, Black, White, and Red, which is that cool ultra violent take on anthology stories of Boba Fett. That's going to be written by my friend and yours, Ethan Sachs. I've had him on the channel before, interviewing, or not even interviewing, had him on a panel for Star Wars Celebration. There's more comic news. Apparently we're getting a Jar Jar Binks one-shot comic that's actually written by Mark Guggenheim, as well as Ahmed Best is co-writing it, the actual actor of Jar Jar Binks. So
I was going to say, I feel like Ahmed's going to be promoting it for sure.
Yeah, and the thing is with that is, like, he's also going to have Kelleran Beck, who is the other character he plays in Star Wars. Like, Jar Jar and him are going to meet, and apparently Jar Jar is going to have some role in the formation of the rebellion or something. My friend was telling me this, that was in the panel, and I'm walking through the halls of New York Comic Con. Like, am I having a fever dream, or am I in like an alternate reality? Like, this sounds like such crazy fan fiction. Like, oh yeah, Jar Jar Binks, like, basically we know he almost helped create the Empire, but now he's helping out, like, create the rebellion. Like, this is crazy.
That's really funny. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do with that story, and especially just to see where Kelleran Beck goes in this whole, just everything, because we see him for that brief glimpse in what was it, Kenobi, right?
Yeah.
Or no? Was it Kenobi or
no. It was The Mandalorian season 3?
Oh yeah, Mandalorian season 3. That's what it was. Yeah, because Grogu's flashback. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, like, it's gonna be interesting to see where more and more he gets just like dropped into content here and there. I mean, actually, one thing to throw out there, Chris. I know this is not a Maul speculation panel, but what if Kelleran Beck's in the Maul series? Because he would presumably be alive during that time, and Maul needs a quote unquote villain from his perspective. So, like, maybe you get a Kelleran Beck appearing.
Oh, that could be good. I mean, yeah, I was thinking about that earlier. It's like the last time we seen the guy was during Order 66, and we seen him. I don't know. Did we see him get away? I think he was fighting a bunch of Coruscant guard, and then Grogu just leaves. So I'm assuming he survived, because he's one of the best swordsmen, I think we know. But he was dual wielding lightsabers and all. That could be cool. That could be cool. So as I'm scrolling,
that's cool. They're doing a story about him. I do like him.
Oh. I think I might have to pick up this book as I'm getting all this information, if you're curious, from StarWars.com. There's a sneak peek for Star Wars The Mandalorian Visual Guide. Dude, there's some seriously, like, big lore things in here. I'm going to have to pick this book up, right? Because the preview pages we have here telling us about Adelphi, which is the New Republic base. Almost more importantly, there's a whole page, 2 pages on Luke's Jedi Academy on Ossus. Like, there's all this background material. And if that wasn't enough, it's blowing my mind right now, dude, because there's this full page image of a crate dragon. I was under the realization that was like a worm creature. Apparently it has like 8 legs and 4 arms.
Which one? The one
that was dragon from The Mandalorian season 2 in the opening episode on Tatooine.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, do you see it? Like, if you scroll down, you can see this.
Hold on 1 second.
It looks bizarre. Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. Actually, I don't know. I think that's one cool thing about Star Wars, regardless of like the era that you're looking at stuff. I think when it comes to this, I think with Star Wars, the big thing is, concept stuff like that is always so cool to check out. Like in my opinion,
Yeah, it's like,
just
yeah,
well, it gives you an idea of like what they were thinking, what they were looking at, whatever. So that's really neat.
that always brings to mind like the image that horrifies me is like when you look up like a Sarlacc pit and you see like the
Mm.
cross section of a Sarlacc pit, it goes like so far down into the earth, the planet, and then you see it has
Yep.
like arms and stuff, and it looks so effing creepy with the appendages and all that. And I'm looking at this great dragon, and it always did bother me a little bit when I'm watching. I'm like, why is this thing considered a freaking dragon when it's just a worm? Like, we don't see its legs at all. At least I don't think I've seen it. I've watched the episode several times, and I never dawned on me that this thing has limbs underneath the sand. But now it makes so much more sense. It's like, yes, it's a proper dragon. It actually has limbs. It's not just a worm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's really cool though that they showed that.
Yeah. So we have that coming out. We also, this looks really interesting. This encompasses a lot of things. We have Industrial Light and Magic 50 Years of Innovation. There's stuff in here for Jurassic Park, obviously for a lot of Star Wars, different designs, maquettes, storyboards, and CGI and all that. Yeah, a lot more like little storybooks and stuff from concept art from Andor, Jug Chang. We're getting Cinematic Legacy. Oh, we're getting what is this? The Acolyte. Oh, the Art of Star Wars: The Acolyte. It shows us like different concepts. Speaking of concept art, different concept art that they had for the Stranger, which looks really cool. So yeah, there's a lot of they showed off obviously a lot of like the reference material, meaning like the non-prose Star Wars like books. So a lot of the behind the scenes art books. A lot coming out. A lot coming out. I've kind of tapered my spending on those as much. I'm more like just solely focus on the novels and the comics these days, but like I said, I don't know. I might seeing those pages for the Mandalorian visual guide. I might have to pick that up. It looks pretty cool stuff. I'm sure there's even more information to mine from that. I still haven't even picked up the Acolyte visual guide. I heard there's some pretty good stuff in that one, but yeah, that is the extent of the publishing. There's not much to talk about with Hasbro. So with Hasbro, the panel was on the first day of Comic Con, Thursday at 11 o'clock, but then I had the panel for Knights of the Seven Kingdom at like 12, so I didn't want to miss that one because obviously George R. R. Martin, the maker, was in that panel, so I did not want to miss that one, so I skipped out on this one once again. You had said this earlier, and no, I'm not joking. We are getting another Darth Vader figure. Big surprise. Big surprise. The difference with this one is it actually is a new one from a certain point of view because it's the Vader from the Obi-Wan series where his helmet is slashed by the lightsaber. You can see his head.
I'm glad it's that at least because I was jokingly about to say, what does he have one more speck of dust on his shoulder or something, and they're selling it? Like I literally was gonna say that.
No,
Mm.
it's actually looks kind of cool, but I will not buy it. We have a vintage collection, Padme Amidala. How have we not had that yet? How have we not had this Black Series Book of Boba Fett version of Boba Fett? That's crazy. We're getting a Purge Trooper twin pack with like one of those shock troopers with the shields and the electro staffs from Jedi Survivor. We're getting a Shock T vintage figure, but most importantly, the biggest one, you're going to be interested in this one. We're getting another Legends character in Black Series form. It is Kyle Katarn from Star Wars Dark Forces.
Oh
Looks
dang.
great. I was able to snap a picture of him from the Hasbro booth, which it was nice actually seeing Hasbro there on the floor for once because Hasbro always has a panel, but they've never had a footprint on the show Expo 4 to buy the floor to buy anything. So they had a lot of nice little like scenes set up with the characters. Like they were selling, Darth Sidious versus Mace Windu twin pack as an exclusive. They had that set up. They had a bunch of stuff, but then they actually did put out the figure of Kyle Katarn, and he looks really good. Looks really good. I actually might might bend my rule and get that one. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool that they're releasing more Legends characters and things like that. Just because like when it comes to products, you want to release stuff that'll get people to buy things. And I mean, obviously, I guess with the Vader thing, people will buy Vader no matter what. I mean, for I know it's like not a millions of sample size, but one of our YouTube friends, Star Wars Santa, he does a lot of Santa charity work, on the side of his real job. And he said just 2 days ago, he's getting into his busy season for this here in a couple weeks. And he said, even to this day, with all the hype around Grogu and whatever, the sequel trilogy, everything else, he said 9 out of 10, whether it's a boy or girl, 90% of the time, the main Star Wars character kids ask for still is Vader when they ask him for something from Star
Oh
Wars.
my gosh.
It's still Vader. And it's just crazy, like, with all the options like kids have and things like that. I know he even mentioned like one of his nieces is like a younger kid, and she wanted a Vader figure, and he was just like, "You want Vader out of all characters?" And kids like Vader, I guess.
Yeah, kids like Vader, I guess. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It shows. I mean, that's why they keep putting them out. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was the Hasbro panel, the Hasbro reveals. Not anything. I mean, thank goodness they showed off Kyle Katarn. If they didn't show him off and it was just the other reveals, it would have been a dud, in my opinion.
One.
Yeah.
Oh, go on. Well, when you get through the Hasbro stuff, the Comic Con stuff, I do have a little story I forgot to bring up that I wanted to mention for the show.
Okay, and there's one I almost forgot to mention as well. Another Star Wars moment. Last day of the convention, 4-day convention, Thursday through Sunday. I was there on Sunday, walking through Artist Alley, which is the biggest artist alley you'll find on the planet. I mean, even San Diego doesn't even have anywhere near as many comic book artists and writers in one place under one roof. There are lanes. I'm talking about maybe 20 lanes. Like, I'm talking about literally a football field size building lined from one end to the other, multiple rows of just, you could watch my YouTube reel about it. I have it on, or YouTube short.
I see it.
Yeah, and I actually did not plan it, but as I was doing that YouTube short, I just happened to just cross by all the Star Wars authors. I don't know if you've seen Tim Zahn was on there, Charles Soule was on there, Ethan Sachs was on there. So it was really cool how they had it organized, because they just happened to have like all the Star Wars creatives in like one row. So I ended up just going up saying hi to Ethan, because we've done interviews. As I said, we've done a panel, so we know each other. Passing, I'll say, hey, how's it going? So I was talking to him about just, various things like he's working on, Poe Dameron stuff, And I ended up buying The Haunted Girl, which is the joint venture comic that he and his daughter wrote together. So I bought that, got the signatures from that, and just cool just catching up with him. Oh yeah, we were talking about the VR, because Beyond Victory was like this VR experience we talked about a few times on the channel. He wrote the tie-in comic that was an exclusive at Star Wars Celebration Japan that I picked up. So we were talking about like, hey, what's like the process like of like developing a story with like a game, like a VR thing. So that was fun. And then I went over to Charles Soule, and I straight up asked him, like, how does it feel to be done with the High Republic? Because you guys were working hard on that for several years. So it was cool, because then I had my buddy next to me that was chiming in saying, oh, yeah, I just started the High Republic recently, and I've read every single... So it was cool getting like that. And then I went to Tim Zahn, and that's when I basically regressed into a geek kid that was just didn't have a filter, I guess.
Yep.
So I immediately went up to him, and this was, I must have seemed so awkward, because I just straight up was like, hey, how's it go? Because it was great, because none of these guys had lines at that moment. For some reason, there was nobody in line, so I just walked right up and just talked. I just immediately went into this like discussion about the Grisk with Tim Zahn. And I just said, awesome. I just was talking about, I really, really like these characters. They're so mysterious. I love what you did with the Unknown Regions in the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy. I loved how you have that mysterious feeling of what's out there. We don't know what's out there. These guys are out there. It's like, are the First Order modeling their helmets after them? I know we've seen them in the the adaptation of Throne Alliances. So I was talking like this to him, like I was stumbling, like talking fast through all these things, like getting on all my thoughts. I'm like, dude, take a breath, take a breath. Get back right. I'm like, stay cool, take a breath. This is the godfather of the EU, for goodness sakes. Like, this guy did the Thrawn trilogy, and this wasn't like the first time I talked to him either, which is funny because I'm like, why am I acting this way? I'm trying not to act nervous. I'm not really. I'm just like acting like I'm coming off like I have this nervous energy, like I'm talking fast about the Grisk of all things. Like it's just hilarious how in the weeds I was talking to the author about this stuff, and I was like, I know you can't tell me about the future plans for these characters and what's going on, blah blah blah. But I'm just like, I appreciate you putting these characters into stars. I appreciate what you do. And then he held out his hand to me, and I shook his hand. So that was cool. I was just like, all right, have a good day. Appreciate what you do. Blah blah blah. We went our separate way. I went my separate way, but that was fun. Like he's always like really cool. Actually, every one of the authors that I talked about tonight is always super cool. And that's what's fun about New York Comic Con is you go to Artist Alley, and you could just there's like you, a little table, and the author, and that's it. And you just go up. You don't necessarily you could support them, buy their books, you can get signatures, or you could just say hi. It's really nonchalant, really fun. So I always really appreciate about New York Comic Con.
I think I can't speak to some more of the newer, fresher faces into the Star Wars like authorship, but I think the reason why you have like some of the folks like Zahn or some of the people that were carryovers from the EU era into this era of Star Wars, being so good with fans and everything was because like that was like such a big thing for their career back then. Like it was the EU authors or the EU models or people involved with that always doing these conventions and all those sorts of things back then, and they were like so hands-on because it was so big back then. And then that was all they had for how many years until I mean essentially until 2013. So it's great that like you have those type of authors still carried over like into this era of Star Wars. So like it's great that you got to like meet all those folks. And I mean that would have been me as well, like talking to Timothy Zahn. I would have been freaking out.
Yeah, so trying to hold my cool at New York Comic Con. Fun times there. So yeah, that's gonna do it for the convention. I did want to mention this because it's quite unfortunate. I mean, there's no good way to segue to somebody passing away, but unfortunately, Drew Struzan did pass away. He passed away because of it seems like he did have Alzheimer's, and he passed away at the age of 78. So if you're not familiar with his work, I've he did so much stuff over the years, and I was looking at it earlier tonight, and it was kind of blowing my mind with how much stuff he was responsible for that would really, be so prevalent through nerd culture and everything else. So not only did he do Star Wars, but he also did, let's see, First Blood with Sylvester Stallone. He did Hook. He did The Thing. He did Harry Potter. There's so much. Back to the Future. Like his style is so iconic. Indiana Jones, so iconic. Like, I mean, for me, the first thing was the special that I noticed by him is like the special edition posters. That's when I really became aware of Star Wars.
Yep.
I obviously wasn't alive for the original one, so in the late 90s when these came out, it was like they put all these out, and they just popped. Like they just popped for me. Like seeing a new poster with the bright lights that just signified hope. Seeing the version of The Empire Strikes Back, all the blues. Seeing Return of the Jedi with Jabba the Hutt, with Luke and Vader front and center dueling. There's that moment in time where I see these things that it kind of brings me back to my childhood. Just like I remember looking at those when I was like 6 and 7 years old, and like going to the movie theater and seeing the movies. And there's just something so nostalgic and sentimental about them. So for somebody to have been responsible to touch so many people's lives, just like mine, like this guy deserves so much credit for his lifelong work at just making art that just would resonate so much with people, you know? So,
Oh yeah.
books, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think obviously for like us, being in our 30s, our big exposure and for our first like initial memories of his work was, like the special edition related material. Obviously Indiana Jones, just, through our parents and things and us seeing them. So it's great seeing how impactful like his artwork was, the way he, you know, crafted all of these these posters and things, or these pieces of art. And I think one of the better ones as like we grew older and like learning the history of all of these things was the whole Revenge of the Jedi poster,
Mm,
because that one, that was the original title for Return of the Jedi, and then they changed it to Return
that's
just because of like,
right.
yep. So like, and like the reason like that poster got so far into it, because I was reading some of this Drew Struzan stuff, a few days ago at the end of last week, and they were like super far into the process of that movie, and like he was like making different posters for George, and like he got that finalized Revenge of the Jedi one done, and then George was like, no, hold on, like you're gonna have to like redo this entire thing essentially, because it's
Huh.
actually Return of the Jedi. So like he had to go back and like redo it essentially. So it's just cool seeing all the different variations of his artwork, and stuff. So yeah, a great life lived, and yeah, very impactful to everybody really. I mean, all different genres, not just Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. And you know, now he's so influential. So influential. Like there's so many poster designs where you can literally say, "Oh, that's like a Drew Struzan's." You know, you see all the faces, the silhouettes, and things like that, and you see like, "Oh, I see what they're channeling." So, he's really leaving a legacy behind. He's leaving a positive legacy for artists, for movie posters, because there's a certain time, right? The golden age of poster designs, and he was responsible for it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the thing. Like his style's recognizable. And it's like that style too. Like it's great. Like that shows you why art is important, where it's not everything's not just like AI, because like, an AI couldn't come up with like art that hits like the same way. So it's really cool just seeing, people recognize it as well, just because like, sometimes if it's not like the big directors or actors or people like that on a movie or whatever, a lot of the people will go under the radar. And then you actually had, I seen a lot of people talking about Struzan's work when this happened. So it was great seeing him get his flowers essentially.
Yeah, very much so, very much so.
I
So
will
go ahead.
um I mean, I will say, like, I guess to like, like I'm sure you're about to say, I don't know how we can like transition off
Yep.
of that topic. Well, I guess like in a positive direction, I guess. So like I mentioned earlier, I guess this is like our final little news bit, just to throw in there, I guess, to end things on a little bit more of a lighthearted or interesting note. I guess that was that was like me grabbing the wheel and driving off the cliff, but I guess here we are. Um, but anyways, so an interesting thing over the past couple weeks. So I seen an interview with Lawrence Fishburne, and he was saying it was with, I think it was with Hollywood Reporter. He was just doing like an interview, like about his career, whatever. But he volunteered the information that he has recently been watching Star Wars animated shows like Rebels and Clone Wars and stuff. And
Ben,
like and I'm so happy the interviewer did the
Ben,
follow up question and asked and said, and asked and said, "So, does that mean like, are you studying for something? Are you studying for a role?" And he's like, "No, I'm not. I'm not interested in being a part of Star Wars. I'm just watching it." And it's like, why would it? I mean, I guess people can get into Star Wars at any age, or like Star Wars media at any age, but he's got to be in his 50s or low 60s, and he's watching Star Wars animation that came out 10 years ago. Like, I don't know. It's just a little bit of like healthy speculation or interesting speculation to throw out there to end our podcast off with tonight. It's like, why would someone like that, presumably probably busy still, why would they be watching Star Wars animated content?
So I was trying to get your attention
Oh,
because I was in the room when he revealed that information at Comic Con.
okay, yeah, because because I was reading the follow up thing with that, and I'm like, what in the heck? Like, why would he be watching animated Star Wars
I
stuff? That makes no
love that.
sense.
Okay, so to give you a pretext of what the heck we're talking about here.
I
So
saw
there,
it transcribed, I just didn't. I was like, I don't know, I just didn't understand it. I was like, what in the world?
it's the 25th anniversary of The Matrix. So they had a 25th anniversary panel. It was Lawrence Fishburne, who obviously played Morpheus, and they also
Yep.
had, man, I'm sorry, I forget the other actor's name. He's one of the side characters in the movie that plays like one of the good guys that gets killed later on in the movie.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
He's like the bald. I think he's a bald guy, white guy. Anyway, um, but so yeah, it was cool. It was a really chill panel. I got in there. They were kind of. I showed up like 30 minutes late. And they were kind of off topic at that point, talking about other things that they're doing. So Lawrence Fishburne, the moderator, asked them like, so they were talking about his role as Perry White in like the Superman movies for the DCEU. They were talking about, you're in the Matrix, you're now in The Witcher, and I can't wait because he's in The Witcher now for Witcher season 4, I think it is, and
Great actor.
he's playing Regis, and I read the books. Regis is a vampire,
Mm.
and he's part of the cast of characters that's allies with Geralt Witcher walking around the continent. So I'm looking for that. So he's mentioned that. So the moderator's like, so you've been in DC, you've been in the Matrix, you've been in all these big high profile things, but you haven't been in Marvel and you haven't been in Star Wars. So he starts talking about Marvel, and this is where another big news buzz came out of. He literally says, I want to be playing Professor X in the MCU. He like says like,
Yep.
cast me in this movie basically now. Like, nobody asked him about if they would play. He brought that information himself, him in his own. He's like, I want to play Professor X. It's like, when people say that on a big 3,000 people stage in front of live cameras and stuff, that's probably he's probably in talks of playing this like yesterday now because of
Yeah.
that. Like if they haven't already gotten somebody on board, like I would love to see him as Professor X. I think he would do great as that role. And then he was like talking about Star Wars, and he's like, and this is where I thought he was genuine. I don't think he's working on it. I would hope this is the case because
Mm.
he got so much street cred for me. By the way, this was only his second appearance ever at a convention. Like, I don't know what other convention he was at before, but he was at New York Comic Con. He was doing signings all weekends. I'm not sure if he was doing photo ops as well, but this is the one panel he was on. And he was getting so much street cred with me because he was like super positive. He was like talking about like inside baseball, like different fandoms and stuff. I'm like, I did not realize that Lawrence Fishburne was this cool. Like, he's kind of like one of
Mm.
us. So when he started talking about like, yeah, like I'm watching Star Wars Rebels, I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
like you're not watching like Andor, you're not watching, The Mandalorian, like the really mainline stuff right now. You're watching an animated show that was done like 10 years ago. That was coming out 10 years ago. Like, that's awesome that you're like that deep into weeds, and you must be that into Star Wars to just be randomly watching Star Wars Rebels. So I took it as a way as like, hey, this guy's super cool. He's straight up like, I don't want to be in
Mm.
Star Wars. I just enjoy watching it, because a lot of the times is like, if you're a big fan of something and all of a sudden you're a part of something, you lose that magic. Like, you're not getting that cool
Yep.
feeling of like, oh, this is all new to me because I'm seeing how the sausage is made essentially. So like, I respect him for that because it's like, dude is just sitting there watching Rebels randomly. This is great. This guy's one of us.
That's good though that you were there to witness it, because reading an article and reading the quotes from it, you can't get the context of how the person talks about it. So that's good. Good to hear that. But yeah, that was when I read that, I was like, what in the world? Like what's up with that?
Yeah, so I was happy. We made it to Comic-Con that Sunday. And
Nice.
besides talking to the Star Wars writers at the Artist Alley, that also made my day. Just like listening to Lawrence Fishburne and be like, this guy's a cool dude. Like he was going on and talking about like how even at his age, when he has all this money in the world, he can have any part he wants in any movie, basically, because he's got that kind of level of, being a veteran at this. He was on stage admitting like I want to be in people's movies that are weird. I want to be in I want to be in basically another version of the Matrix. Like the Matrix came out, the Wachowski sisters, or they basically made this, and it was like nobody knew what the heck this was. This was a shot in the dark. Like it wasn't based on any pre-existing franchise, I don't think.
Yep.
Like it was just this crazy thing. And now he's on the other side of that. Now he's world famous, and he still wants to be involved in projects that aren't going to make him a lot of money, maybe per se, but they're going to get him to stretch his legs with acting. They're going to get him to have fun and not do it so much for the paycheck, but just because he's an actor's actor. Like he wants to just be in cool stuff that is like
Yep.
new, that is something that's not been done before. So hearing him say that, I was like, this is the kind of guy I would really enjoy having a conversation with because he's so genuine and he's very passionate about his profession.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great to hear that about him. And yeah, I mean it's cool to hear, because like you said, actors like that, they can be in any project they want essentially at his level. I mean, he's an A-list big time actor. Like, he could get a role in anything. And it wouldn't surprise me if him bringing that up is already like obviously he loves acting and all that stuff. But it wouldn't surprise me if that was part of a leverage thing to Marvel. You know what I mean? Like, hey, look at
Yeah.
all these people. They're excited for me. Pay me what I want, and I'll be in. I'll do it. Whatever. Or I want this part. Like, look, they're all hyped for me. Yada yada yada. Like, there's a lot of stuff like that is leverage. So, to me, more than anything, that makes me feel like there's a very high chance of him being in a Marvel movie just because of him bringing that up like that in such a fashion. Because I mean he, openly talking about that. There's been plenty of other instances of actors kind of using the media and using conventions and things to like kind of pry their way into like a project or a property or whatever. I mean, heck, Robert Downey Jr. did that after the first Iron Man. He did that as leverage, like to continue playing that character. So like you have so many instances of that in Marvel, and that's cool. I mean, hey, get him into Marvel, and who knows? Maybe eventually he'll pop into Star Wars for something.
Yeah, for sure. So there you have it. I think we're gonna wrap it up for this week on the podcast. I want to thank you for joining me, Ben. Bit of a longer one tonight. Just like the episode we did with Tractor Beam was almost 2 hours this week as well. So I had a lot to say this week apparently, but no, it was great going back and forth. Thanks for bringing up the Lawrence Fishburne story, because I actually did want to talk about that, and it would have completely escaped my mind for sure. And it just funny as heck how we just realized like you were talking about the article. I'm like trying to get your attention. Like, dude, I was in the room. I was in the room for that. I know exactly where that came from. I was there. I was literally there.
That's perfect. Yeah, because like I said, just reading it, you can take him saying he doesn't want to be in Star Wars. That's like Liam Neeson saying, "Oh, I'm not in Kenobi," and then he's in Kenobi. So like, you don't know, but like the context of it is huge when you're reading an article compared to not. But yeah, I mean, it was a really good podcast tonight. And thanks to everybody who was like listening and watching or listening after the fact. It's always great to get on here and just talk Star Wars with you, and all of our other friends in the Star Wars community. So, yeah, if anybody wants to find me talking about Star Wars or the NFL or fitness or whatever, you can find me at Real Ben Maynard on X and Instagram. And if you want to find Milton talking, because he wasn't able to be here tonight, it's actually his dad's 60th birthday. Shout out to him. Happy birthday. You can find Milton talking about that sort of stuff at Milton Weber 7 on X or Milton 7, or no, Milton Weber 7 on X and Milton 7 Weber on Instagram. You can find him posting life updates and things like that.
Yeah, yep. I always will forget exactly what the order of his username is on what platform. So I always appreciate that you can keep it straight.
If Milton's watching, I'm about to ask him, be like, yo, you need to move 7 to the end or the middle on one of your usernames because they're the exact same.
Yeah. And to answer her question earlier, Small Bento Sakura, I would give New York Comic Con this year, 2025, a score of a 9 out of 10. It was good. It was more relaxing for me. Some days I didn't show up. I don't recommend this because I spent good money, but so there was one day I didn't show up till almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon there. And that is the only reason why I mention that is because it opens at 10. I did not have con cred. I know a lot of people that came away from it, they get a little sick and all. Hey, I was getting good nights of rest, all right? I wasn't stressing. I was getting there, having a good time, enjoying the vibe. Oh, I got to play Resident Evil 9 early. That was really a lot of fun, too. Getting the crap scared out of me on day one. And it was great because I was reading my Revenge of the Sith novelization, waiting in a line that took over an hour. So I'm like, I'm not even mad right now. I'm standing here in line reading stuff about Matthew Stover talking to George Lucas about writing a Star Wars novel. I'm like, this is great. I don't care. You can put me in a 3-hour line. I'm happy right now. So that is the vibe. New York Comic Con. If you guys haven't been there yet, I highly recommend it. Hey, it's a good way to go see New York City. Go there, then have nice food at a good restaurant after the con gets out. So definitely recommend. Had a lot of content out. As I mentioned, you have a lot of YouTube shorts I have on the channel, but I have my review for Star Wars Jaws of Jakku, the audiobook I mentioned. I also have my review for the aforementioned Revenge of the Sith novelization. Plus, I have an unboxing. Yeah, I've done an unboxing, guys. It's been a while, but I have an unboxing for the brand new Star Wars Legion 2.0 starter set for the Galactic Republic. So you can watch me nerd out about little plastic miniatures and whatnot for a good 10 minutes on that video. If you're interested, recommend it. So until next time, for Milton, for Ben, for Chris, aka Starrapter, that's gonna do it for Outer Rim Transmission episode 211. There you go. I did it without screwing it up this time. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.